Pollution. There are many kinds of pollution. They can be grouped into several major classifications, of which we mention here: water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, and radiation pollution. Air pollution is caused by car engines and by big factories with large chimneys through which dirty air escapes. Land pollution can be caused by waste or rubbish such as paper, bottles, aluminum, scraps, junk, etc. Because of our carelessness and laziness, our surroundings are very dirty. They are filled with household as well factory waste. Some waste can be broken down by natural organisms such as bacteria. Rubbish like this is called organic waste. On the other hand, rubbish which cannot be broken down by natural organisms is called an unorganic waste. This is more difficult to dispose of and it makes the surroundings very unpleasant to look at. Noise pollution can be caused by several things: loud music through loudspeakers, the noise of motorized vehicles such as trucks, buses, motorcycles, and also aircraft. Loud noise may cause deafness. It can affect the heart and cause nervous strain. Radiation pollution can kill many people in one moment. It is caused by uranium and other radioactive. The testing of atomic weapons is feared by people in general because atomic weapons are radioactive. These are a few examples of the different kinds of pollution in our lives. Ecosystem. The living and non-living things in any area form a community are called ecosystem. They act on one another in many ways. Two of the most important ways are through food chains and chemical cycles. Life could not exist without energy from the sun. The sun's energy travels to Earth as light. It affects plants and animals through chemical processes. All plants and animals are linked together in these processes. The sun's energy flows through all of them in a continuing path called a food chain. Plants-eating animals, or herbivores, eat the plants. In their own bodies, these animals reorganize the chemical in the plants and use them as nourishment. The same thing happens when a plant-eating animal, such as rabbit, is eaten by a meat-eating animal, or carnivore, such as a fox. Animals that eat both plants and meat are called omnivore. A certain process takes place when living things die. Bacteria and fungi break the chemical compounds down into simple nutrients. This process is called decomposition. The nutrients from decaying animals enter the soil, where they are used again by plants. Thousands of years ago, the human population was much smaller than it is today and people did not greatly affect the balance of nature. Several hundred people who lived as community of hunters did not kill enough animals to disturb the balance of their ecosystem. A few thousand people who lived by a river and discarded waste did not pollute the water enough to change the ecosystem. Today the human population is enormous, and people have created many ecological crises, especially in areas where the population has grown quickly. Their demand for space, their production of waste, and their need for quantities of food, water, and energy all have had an important effect on natural system. Very often, the activities of people have upset the natural balance. Electricity. We can't imagine living without electricity. Aeroplanes wouldn't be able to take off, car engines wouldn't run, radio and television broadcasts would stop. In other words, modern living could not go on. Besides, millions of people, mechanics, factory workers, pilots, etc. would lose their job, for they can work only if electricity is available. Electricity is undoubtedly one of the most important aids to modern living. Nowadays the government tries hard to modernize the people, not only in the cities but also in the countries. This is a good wisdom. If people in cities or towns don't get food from people in the countries, they can't work well. On the other hand, if people in the countries don't get supply, equipments and services from people in the cities, they can't work well either. One of the government attempts to modernize the country people is by installing the power plants to produce electricity to light country homes. By introducing electricity in the country people can enjoy television broadcast relayed by nearby relay stations. Badminton. Badminton is an indoor sport that has been greatest since the end of World War II. It is sport for 2 or 4 players. The players use long-handled rackets to hit a shuttlecock over a net. The net is stretched across a marked court. Badminton rackets are lightweight. A shuttlecock is usually made of cork and feather. The court is about 5.2 meter wide and 13.4 meter long for singles, and 1 meter wider for doubles. In order to score, a player has to save, or put the shuttlecock into play. A server can score when the opponent lets the shuttlecock fall to the ground or by a fault. A fault occurs when the opponent, in an attempt to return the shuttlecock safely, allows it to go into or under net. To hit the shuttlecock out of the playing or also a fault. Men win a game after collecting 15 points. In women's singles 11 points wins a game. Badminton has been growing very rapidly. It grows either as backyard recreation or as a competitive sport. The International Badminton Federation was founded in 1934 with 9 nations represented. Now it has members in more than 40 nations, and a world tournament for both men and women is held every 2 years. Agriculture. In agriculture, for example, to fulfill demand for food supply, man tends to concentrate on growing a single species of plant, monoculture, in area. High densities of crops provide optimum condition for pests and spread disease. To kill pests and the spread of disease man uses pesticides, especially insecticides. Trough effective, it is expensive and can kill many organisms which harmless to man's crops, so upsetting the balance of the ecosystem. They may kill the pest's natural enemies, thus removing a form of biological control of the pests. Moreover, pesticides, DDT for example, can accumulate within the tissues of organism, and be passed along food chains where they increase in concentration. Animals at the end of the food chain may doses large enough to be fatal. Industrialization pollutes the atmosphere, soil and water. The main factors in this are the release of chemical waste from industrial processes, the use of pesticides and herbicides, accumulation of unwanted materials, rubbish, and the increasing disposal of the radioactive waste. The only means of preventing over-exploration of plants, animals and natural resources, and preserving the stability of the ecosystem is by conservation. The government gives protection to the species and animal threatened with extinction and campaigns to conserve energy. Forest conservation, reforestation, regeneration, national parks, like Ujung Kulon for example, to hunt, kill or trade in protected animals such as elephants, orang-utans, rhinoceros, and cassowary. Recent efforts to transfer elephants from the neighboring areas to Air Sugihan in South Sumatra as a means of protecting elephants for extinction. All this has to be done to raise the quality of the environment and to produce a balance of nature. Trade for the good things anew. One person has vegetables, but wants fruit. Another man has a great deal of fruit, but wants some vegetables. So the first man gives some of his vegetables to the second, and the second man gives some of his fruit to the first. He has exchanged the vegetables for the fruit. They are happy now. Trade has made them happy. People have always traded. Why have they traded? They have traded because they have wanted a better life. At first people exchange their things for other things. Now people buy and sell things. They trade for money. Many foreigners have come to Indonesia for trade. The first traders came for spices. That was for very long time ago. Now the traders come here for many other things. History has shown us that a country has to trade if its people want a better life. Indonesia is trying hard to improve its trade. It sells many things to other countries, but the most important things are oil, rubber, tin and copra. What has trade to other countries brought us? It has brought the things that we do not make. The cars that we drive, the train that we ride in, and the watches that we wear are examples of these things. It is not hard to understand that they have made life better. But we can trade only if we have more things than we need. So we have to make or produce more things to sell. We have to produce more oil, more rubber, more tin, and more of other things. We have to produce better things, too, because we can get more money for them. All this means hard work for us. Hard work at school, hard work at the office, hard work in the city, hard work in the country, hard work everywhere. By this way we can all enjoy the good things in life. Noise. Noise can be defined as sound that we do not want. This definition is a subjective one, however, because what is unwanted sound to some people may be desirable sound to other. Noise is subjective. That noise is subjective may mean that people receive it at different levels. This two people will not agree that the loud music from a neighbor's house, for example, is noise. To one of them, however, it is tolerable noise, while to the others it is annoying noise. This difference in the levels of reception between two people may be due to the fact the former is a patience person, while the latter is not. It might also be due to the fact that the former is used to having loud music, while the latter is not. To borrow a term from psychology, the person who can tolerate the loud music is said to have been conditioned, while the person who is annoyed by it is said not to have been conditioned by the noise. In addition to the tolerance and annoyance levels, there is yet another level of noise reception. This is what might be called the damage level, where the noise is such that it damages the eardrum. The damage may be temporary, and in this case the person concerned may be only temporarily deafened. It may be also be that the damage is permanent. When this occurs, the person becomes permanently deaf. Very often, however, deafness does not occur right away but comes gradually as result of a long period of exposure to the same source of loud noise. The person concerned may tolerate that noise because he has been conditioned by it, but damage is done. The damaging noise will accelerate his gradual loss of hearing due to growing age. Electric power supply. The electric current supplied to your home from the power station is alternating current, or AC for short. AC reverses its direction of flow 100 times every second. It flows 50 times in one direction. AC is easier to generate and to transmit than DC, direct current. Another reason that AC is used for domestic power supplies is that its voltage can change by a device called a transformer. Huge quantities of electrical energy are produced by a power station. This electricity must be sent out across the country to houses, shops, and factories. To push the electricity out over long distances, very high voltages are needed. However, when the electricity reaches its destination, lower voltages are needed because high voltages are very dangerous. High voltages are stepped down by means of a transformer, an invention of the 19th century English scientist Michael Faraday, who also discovered the principle of the dynamo. The dynamo can change mechanical energy into electrical energy. The transformer consists of two coils of wire than the other. If AC is passed through one coil, it induces moving lines of magnetic force. This in turn induces an electric current in the other coil. Suppose coil A has half as many turns as coil B, then the voltage induced in it will be half the voltage in coil B. In this way the voltages can be reduced. At the same time the current can be increased. The power supply from the power station once stepped down by transformers from hundreds of thousands of volts to 220 volts for domestic use. Houses are wired with electric circuits. Electricity coming into the house passed through a meter, which measures the amount of electricity used, so that the supplier can charge for it. The current also passes through a fuse box. A fuse protects electrical appliances from overloading. If too much power once taken, a wire in the fuse gets hot and melts, so breaking the circuit and acting as a switch. Hydroponics. Hydroponics is the term used to describe the several ways in which plants can be raised without soil. These methods, also known generally as soils gardening, include raising plants in containers filled with water or any of other non-soil mediums including gravel, sand, vermiculite and other more exotic medium, such as crushed rock or bricks, and shards of cinder blocks. There are several excellent reasons for replacing soil with a sterilized medium. Soil-borne pests and diseases are immediately eliminated, as weeds are, and the labor involved is reduced. More important, raising plants in a non-soil medium will allow you to grow more plants in limited amount of space. Food crops will mature more rapidly and produce greater yields. Water and fertilizer are conserved, since they can be reused. In addition, hydroponics allow you to exert greater control over your plants, to ensure more uniform results. All of this is possible by the relation of a plant with its growing medium. It isn't soil that plants need, it's the reserves of nutrients and moisture contained in the soil, as well as the support the soil renders the plant. Any growing medium will give adequate support. The methods of hydroponics gardening developed over the past 45 years can be divided into categories defined by the medium in which the plant are grown. In water culture, the plants are grown only in water, or in a water and nutrient solution. Sand culture calls for raising plants in sterile sand, into which a water and nutrient solution is pumped. Aggregate culture replaces the sand, instead of using one of the materials such as gravel or vermiculite, and retaining the method of pumping a water and nutrient solution into the material. Finally, there are a number of experimental or unorthodox techniques. Hydroponics units have been used to replace the conventional benches in a greenhouse, and soil-borne pests and diseases are avoided. Nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is the energy contained in the nucleus, or center, of an atom. It is the most powerful form of energy that exists. Only in this century have scientists learned how to obtain nuclear energy. They have put it to constructive uses, as in electric power stations. They have also put it to destructive uses, as in the atomic bomb and the hydrogen bomb. Sometimes nuclear energy is called atomic energy because it is obtained from atoms. This is not a good choice of words. Other forms of energy can also be obtained from atoms. For example, chemical energy also comes from atoms. But it comes from reactions outside the atomic nuclei. Nuclei is the plural of nucleus. Chemical energy is released when coal, oil, gas and other fuels are burned. An atomic bomb explosion shows how powerful nuclear energy is. You have probably read of nuclear explosions described in terms of megatons, or million of tons of TNT. You may have known that TNT is the abbreviation of trinitrotoluene. It means a high explosive. The breakdown, or fission, or uranium atoms supplies about 2% of the world's energy requirements. Fission releases tremendous amount of heat, which can be used to make steam low-drive electric generators. Early supporters of nuclear power believed that it would provide plenty of energy at low cost. But many problems have developed. The cost of building nuclear power plants has soared. There is great public concern about the possibility of a spread of radiation following an accident in a nuclear plant. As yet there is also no sure, safe way to dispose of the burned-out fuel, which is radioactive. And the supply of uranium on the Earth, like the supply of fossil fuels, is limited.